And they lost at BC Place. Shoddy play on special teams contributing to their downfall as they were beaten by the BC Lions. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to our CFN telecast from the Sky Dome in Toronto. One of the worst nightmares for Toronto head coach Bob Obilovich is that his team might lose to the Ottawa Rough Riders tonight, not only because the Riders are 0-6, but because it would be Toronto's second loss in a row and would drop them below the 500 mark. The Argos, a team not without their problems, most of them on offense. They have averaged only 18 points per game. Defensively, they have been very solid all season, giving up just 18 points a game. Neil Lumsden is with one of their top defensive players, Glenn Kolka.
Glenn, the defense has been coming together, and I know you expect them to get better, but has it been frustrating for you the way the offense has been going?
Well, I've been asked this question quite a bit this year, and it's the type of situation where obviously you want to play well as a team. But, you know, sitting on the sidelines, it's not my job to worry about what the offense is doing. The only thing I do is I just make sure I got a good breath as soon as I come off the field, because you never know when you're going to have to go back out. And I just try and do the best I can do every time, every series that I go out there. How many times I have to go out there is not really relevant to my job.
So you're assuming that the way things have gone in the past, the offense will take care of itself? I
think so. You know, I think last game, the ability to move the ball is coming about, which is very important. The points still aren't coming up on the board, but that's just inside the 20. They're having a little trouble. They can work on that. If they're not moving the ball at all and not getting points, I'd start to worry, but that's not the case.
You talked about being out of breath. You could be out of breath if you have to chase around Damon Allen tonight.
Yeah, luckily, you know what, though, is as far as those type of quarterbacks are concerned, we've faced Tracy Ham, Matt Dunnigan, and Damon Allen on a row. So as far as the defensive unit is concerned, you're working on a certain type of strategy all in a row in the same weeks instead of sporadically going after a certain type, going back against a drop back and then a running quarterback. This way, we've been thinking we have to contain and keep them in our lanes and all that type of stuff for the last 3 weeks. So we got that thought.
Good luck tonight.
Thanks very much.
All right.
And, Neil, one of the people who has to deal with Glenn Kolka and that very good Toronto defensive front is Ottawa offensive lineman Leo Groenwagen.
Well, there's no doubt about it. They do have a good front four. How to stop them, I don't know. We're just going to do our best just to stay in front of them. And Damon, long enough for Damon to get the ball off and make a few completions and, you know, get some drives going.
Can the Riders break into the win column? We'll find out. Ottawa and Toronto are next on the Canadian Football Network. This is the second of 3 meetings between Toronto and Ottawa this season. Toronto won the first one, 21-17, July 19th in Ottawa. And the second one is underway. A line drive kick by Chomik bounces past Orville Lee and into the Ottawa end zone. And he will concede a single point. So the Toronto Argonauts are off to a good start if they consider scoring a single point. A good start. And, Neil, I know that you feel very strongly, and so does Steve Goldman, the head coach of the Ottawa Rough Riders, that the early part of this football game is critical to Ottawa's hopes of winning.
Well, when we talked to him about a game plan, Coach Goldman said more so that having something good happen within the first couple of series, get the offensive team and the rest of the players on the bench feeling good about themselves, and in fact build some confidence early, and that's what they're going to need.
Reggie Ward, wide right, Byron Williams to the left. The wide receivers for Damon Allen in the Ottawa offense. And the toss goes to Orville Lee. And off the left side, Lee gets 5 yards up to the 40, maybe the 41-yard line. Well, the Sky Dome roof is open tonight, as it was the last time we were here. Lovely day in Toronto. And it makes for a pleasant environment for the fans, although the kickers would prefer that the roof be closed, because even though there's very little wind tonight, it does tend to get a little tricky down there, the swirling gusts. Orville Lee on 2nd down and 3, and it looks like he has enough for a first down up across the 45 of the Ottawa Rough Riders. So Orville Lee, who's had a frustrating year, is off to a good beginning to this game.
And that type of beginning also helps the offensive lineman. They can lean a little bit forward on that front arm and come off and start to hit some people instead of playing defensive offense and sitting back and catching people on the pass rush. So that'll help Orville Lee, but it'll also help those big guys up front.
Lee, 1,000 yards in his rookie season. You see there how he's struggling in this new system. Premature movement as Damon Allen tries to throw to Chris Skinner, incomplete. its procedure against the Ottawa Rough Riders.
Early movement on the right side of the offensive line. That's what the Riders are guilty of right now.
Legal procedure. Ottawa number 57. Decline. Second down.
Brad Fawcett, the right tackle for Ottawa. Bob Obilovich, 2 times the coach of the year in the Canadian Football League, 1982, 1987. Concerned about his team's offense and about their special teams after that loss in Vancouver last week. Second down and 10 as the penalty was declined. Allen dumps it off to Orville Lee, and he's able to gain only 2, maybe 3 yards. And so the Ottawa Rough Rider punting team will make its first appearance of the night.
That was a classic example of the coordination not being exactly there. Damon Allen wanting to draw the defense in probably a little bit closer before he threw the ball to Lee.
Well, Orville Lee likes to handle the ball a lot, and he handled it 3 times on this first Ottawa possession. Tom Schimmer's average down from a few weeks ago, just below the 40 mark now, the lowest average of the punters in the CFL, and Schimmer hits a high kick, not very long. And Brazeley has it at the 30. Good coverage by the Ottawa Rough Riders. Patrick Wayne made the tackle, and the Argos will begin their first offensive thrust from their 30-yard line.
I don't know if anyone's felt the pressure more than Gilbert Renfro about not just moving the offense, which they've done fairly effectively, but getting it in the end zone. When you get to plus territory, which is about 30 or 40 yards in, let's get it in the end zone. Only 1 touchdown pass to Jeff Boyd, and he's not playing tonight, so they've got their hands full.
Lee Morris replacing Boyd at starting wide receiver, as Renfro throws that hitch screen to Morris on first down, and he'll gain close to 5 yards with it up near the 35-yard line. Troy Wilson was in on the tackle.
Well, as early as the game may be, it's still time to make adjustments, and even though the adjustment may be slim, the offensive line comes after the first series, talks to Urban Bowman, their coach, says, Coach, this is where they're lining up. What do we do now? There's something I'm not sure on. Get it straight now rather than get caught later in the first quarter.
2nd and 5 Argos at their 35. 1-0 Toronto. We're 3 minutes into the game at the Skydome. The pass incomplete, and it hit Morris in the shoulder and bounced away. 5 drop passes, Bob Obilovich said, in the game in Vancouver last week, and he's growing more and more impatient with these things.
I think it's a very irritating situation when not only for the quarterback but for the coach. He gets the ball in there, it's a first down situation, and they've killed the drive.
Ankalisic with a pulled hamstring muscle, but he is going to try to punt. If he can't effectively, Lance Chomick will come in and do that job. 3rd down and 5. And Alisic's punt not that long. Stacey Dossie with it for Ottawa. A flag goes down as Dossie brings it back to the 44. 11.5 minutes left in the first quarter at the Skydome. The Argos lead Ottawa 1-0. The first quarter has been a particularly bad one for the Ottawa Rough Riders this season. They've given up 80 points in their 6 previous games in the first quarter. Tonight they've only surrendered 1, but we're only 3.5 minutes into the game as Damon Allen finds Reggie Ward along the right sideline for a gain of 8, close to 9 yards. Allen with Chris Skinner and Orville Lee, 2 Canadian running backs. The receiving core with Ward Williams outside. Gerald Wilcox starting at slot back along with Alphin. And Fawcett moves to right tackle. Brad Tierney is now the starting right guard with the injury to Kerry Ilarenko. Ilarenko, pardon me, played right tackle the first 6 games of the year. 6 players who started in Ottawa's game against Edmonton last week are not playing tonight because of injury, and a 7th, Denny Ferdinand, who was a backup in that game, is also out because of an injury.
Well, Steve Goldman said to us that at the best of times, with everyone healthy, they'd have a heck of a time being competitive with Toronto. But now that these injuries have taken place, it's going to be even tougher. And it's going to take a special effort, but maybe even more so, some luck on their side. And I think if the defense can keep going 2 and out like they did in their first series, that'll be a bit of a change for them.
And if Damon Allen and the offense can put some first downs together as they did that time, something they could not do against the Edmonton Eskimos. 1st and 10 now from the Ottawa 43. Kulka chasing Damon Allen, who reverses his field and just throws it away. There's a receiver in the area, Byron Williams, so Allen will get away with it and save a potential big loss.
Well, you want to get to the outside as a quarterback. You don't want anybody in your face, but you also want to have the freedom of knowing that no one's going to chase you down. Damon Allen on a full sprint. The backs are up. This is a play, somewhat of a play action, but he never gets a chance to settle and throw the ball because of Kulka. I wouldn't want to stop and settle down either with Kulka behind me.
Impressive speed by Kulka, cutting the sideline off from Damon Allen. Second down and 10. Riders at their 43. Skinner shifts to the right. Fake to Orville. Allen's pass over the middle. Nice catch by Alphen across center field at the Toronto 54-yard line. That's a 12-yard gain, close to 13, a first down for Ottawa.
The hot pattern, watch Alvin adjust. Alphen's going to adjust, go to the inside. Holmes crosses his face. He knows the middle's open, so he can get away from Brazeley before Crawford comes up from his safety spot. And Allen has to get it in there before those two come together.
Nice catch by Alphen. Puts Ottawa into Toronto territory. First and 10, Ward wide right, Williams to the left. Allen fakes. The Argos aren't buying it, and down goes Allen. Kulka got him.
Well, you have to give yourself on the offense a bit of a chance when you play action to one side if you're going to leave someone untouched. I mean, you better do a pretty good sell job to get them to come down. Kulka comes straight across, doesn't slant down hard. Almost looks like it was a mix-up. A couple of offensive linemen standing around. That's what happens.
And Kulka gets his 5th sack of the year. And the Riders have a 5-yard loss. They'll be second down and 15 from their 51.5. Allen in the pocket, looks to the right sideline, but it's no good. Intended for Reggie Ward. And the Ottawa Rough Riders, after putting a little bit of a drive together, will have to kick the ball back to the Toronto Argonauts.
Damon Allen having a fairly decent hit put on his hand. Last game, I guess his hand hit a helmet, and it's his right hand, so he won't be holding today. As a matter of fact, this man, Tom Schimmer, will be holding for Dorsey.
Tony Kimbrough, the backup quarterback again for Ottawa, if Allen has more problems with that hand than we anticipate. Schimmer with a high snap. Nice job of getting it down, and a good bounce on the kick. Larry Crawford, and he stopped at the 25 of the Argonauts. Ottawa played just 4 days ago on Thursday against Edmonton, but it hasn't hampered them so far as they lead Toronto 3-1. 3.5 minutes to go, first quarter. Damon Allen completes to Byron Williams up at the 50-yard line for a gain of 7.
You know, as a punter, you know you might have to mix it up a little bit, make an occasional tackle. Last week, Hank Olisic was called into action to stop Wallace, and he ended up getting hurt. Now, you understand you're wearing the same equipment as everyone else, and you're going to have to go in and make a tackle. But he bounces right back this time and makes a tackle. And I know he doesn't want to be the only one left between he and Stacey Dossie, but it is the situation, and he comes up big once again. So obviously getting hurt the last time hasn't bothered him.
Second punt return in a row this game that Olisic has done that. Orville Lee carrying on 2nd and 2.5, and he doesn't get it. Off the right side, Brazeley and Crawford moved up from the defensive halfback spots. Troy Wilson of the Ottawa Rough Riders is the man that Dossie ran into on that punt return, and he hurt his knee on that play, we presume.
Well, if it's something as simple as just putting some ice on it when you're sitting on the bench, it can't be too serious.
And Ottawa can't convert a 2nd and 2.5. They're 3rd and just over a yard from their 51. And Tom Schimmer is on the punt. Goldman obviously feeling things are going reasonably well. Let's not give the Argos any momentum by gambling and not making it. When you're 0-6, you think that way. Crawford with the return, and Orville Lee down to make a good tackle at the Argo 28-yard line. 2:06 left first quarter. Ottawa leading Toronto 3-1.
Larry Crawford on defense, playing a position that I think he's familiar with, but hasn't been played a lot of, is safety. And of course, he's not unfamiliar with returning punts. Has had tremendous success. Not always had with the burning speed, but always had success.
One of the best at returning punts. Last year was his best year, Neil, of all the years in his career. Chris Schultz not back in at left tackle for the Argos as they start from their 28. Finnerty with the ball, moves to his right, finds some room, and then drives ahead up to the 40-yard line. And that gives the fans at the Sky Dome something to yell about.
Well, not only was it a tremendous effort after he got into the open to keep the legs going and not allow himself to be taken down, but his redirection. Watch where he hits. Left side of the line. Absolutely nothing. Boom. Pops to the right, then gets right back upfield when he sees a seam, and then just keeps pumping.
Didn't seem to have that bounce and that jump in Vancouver last week, but he looks like he has it tonight. 1st and 10, Argos at their 40. Renfro, lots of time. Open is Tolbert. And he has 13 yards up to the Toronto 53-yard line. Tolbert has been talking about being unhappy with the number of passes he's caught as we look at Schultz, who has a sprained left knee.
Well, Emmanuel Tolbert, as you said, I don't think is happy with his production or the amount of time he's seen the football. Only 20 so far this year, but it's quite simple. He's got to learn that the quarterbacks have to learn to adjust to him. It'll come along as it did for Jeff Boyd last year.
From their 53, the Argos have a first down, and Renfro misses the wide receiver on that side, Paul Mazzotti. Actually, Bob Obilovich, talking about the Tolbert situation, said, I don't blame him. He's been open, and Renfro just hasn't picked him up.
Well, as quarterbacks go through the season, their reads will become that much better and what's going on in defense, and that will lead them to the open receiver.
That was Ed Berry, cornerback of the Argos, talking to the spotters upstairs. 2nd down and 10, Toronto from the Argo 53-yard line. Darrell Smith in motion to the left, lining up in the backfield. Renfro fires, and almost a one-handed catch by Tolbert down at the Ottawa 40. Tolbert is seeing much more of the football tonight than he has in earlier games, as is Orville Lee of the Ottawa Rough Riders. Well, Tolbert's had a great career, signed with the Argos as a free agent, leaving Calgary this spring. His home in Toronto. He kept his off-season home in Toronto the years he was in Calgary and said, I want to go back home.
He's always liked it here and would like to probably finish his career here. His wife's and family's in Toronto.
Will Ilisic have to get involved in stopping this punt return. It's a terrific kick. Dossie 5 yards in his end zone, and he won't bother trying to bring it back. He will concede a single point, and so at the end of the first quarter we have a rather the 0-6 Ottawa Rough Riders lead the 3-3 Toronto Argonauts by 2 points. Ottawa 1st and 10 from its 37. Orville Lee with a football, and he's to the 41 for a gain of 4, close to 5 yards.
Every time a team comes into a different stadium, as we look at Alex Carter, they try out cleats if they haven't been there. But now, because everyone's wearing visors, they have to see what visor is best suited for what stadium because of the lights, and it's a bit different here in the Dome. There's a look through the helmet at a clear visor. The amber one brightens things up a bit, and the darker one seems to be the one that a lot of players use, especially defensive players, though some for this game, like John Ulmer, have changed to a lighter color. Alex Carter kept his dark.
Allen on 2nd and 5 finds Chris Skinner up at the 47 of Ottawa, and that looks like it's just enough to give the Rough Riders a first down.
Well, those are the plays, the types of plays Ottawa has not been executing. The 2nd and first down that get you the opportunity or close to the first down to get that drive going. Keep those first downs. Little play action. Orville Lee steps up. Good shot at the defensive lineman to give Damon Allen just that much more time to get the ball out to Chris Skinner.
Bruce Holmes over to make the tackle. The leading tackler on the Argos, their middle linebacker, is Allen. Releases to Robert Reed. He's grabbed by Reggie Pleasant, but Reed will pick up 6, close to 7 yards. Haven't seen much of Robert Reed. He's played very little this year. 6-year veteran of the league. 5th year with the Ottawa Rough Riders from Simon Fraser. Steve Goldman, he said, one of the things we're trying to do in Ottawa is maintain our sanity.
Well, the one thing they can't have happen on a record like this is pointing fingers, be it coaches or players. You have to stay away from that.
2nd and 3, Riders at their 54. Orville Lee grabbed in the backfield, gets away from Crawford, and fights back to the 53. Fumbles the ball. The play is alive. Harding stopped by Damon Allen at the 20-yard line.
Well, that play starts with a great effort by number 28, the safety. Ottawa's going to have to stop them. Go get them all!
First fumble recovery of the year by Rodney Harding, and it puts the Toronto Argonauts, as Tony Visco has helped to the sidelines, at the Ottawa 19-yard line. 7.5 minutes to go. Second quarter at the Sky Dome. Renfro wants to put it in the end zone. Darrell Smith all alone. Touchdown. But there's a penalty, and it's against Toronto, and the touchdown is gone.
Holding. Ottawa, number 63. First down, repeater.
Jim Kardash, the left guard. After that ball was completed, Lloyd Lewis came up just wailing away. You can see him right there. Lewis on Kardash. Lewis does a nice swim move, gets around him, but Kardash has got him nice and tight in close. That's why the flag was thrown.
Grabbed him from behind, and Ken Lazarick, the head referee, spotted it and wiped out a Toronto touchdown. First down and 20. Argos hit screen, and what a good play by the young quarterback, Brett Young.
Brett Young is one of those players that Steve Goldman, when asked, how do you think he'll do? He says, I don't know. We don't know much about him. He's only been in camp 6 days. University of Oregon. He was really brought in as something that maybe might mature through the year, and we could take a look at and watch him react very quickly. 3 steps, that quick screen out to the wide receiver. He fights through the block and then gets to the receiver.
Looks like a fast learner. That's the second time they've shown that play on Young's side, and he said, I've seen this before. Breaks it up. Second down and more than 20 for the Argos, and the pass for Darrell Smith is no good. Renfro unable to get it off with much on it. And the fans tell the story as the Argos are unable to capital on the fumble recovery by Rodney Harding.
Well, you'll see the position he's going to throw the football from. It's not easy, as strong as his arm is, that when you've got someone in your face like Willie Fears pushing you one way to try to get the strength in your arm to snap the ball downfield.
Better indication there of why Renfro got nothing on that throw. Chomek will attempt a 39-yard field goal, which would give Toronto the lead, and he makes it. Lance Chomek puts the Argos in front by 5-4 with 6 minutes and 18 seconds remaining in the first half at the Sky Dome in Toronto. Lance Chomek kicks off after kicking a 39-yard field goal that put Toronto in front 5-4. This is Stacey Dossie for Ottawa, finding the outside cutoff. He does get it back to the Rider 38-yard line. Dossie with real long punt return in the first quarter that the Riders couldn't capitalize on. Tony Visco strained neck muscles. He's back in the game. Number 90 for the Argos.
Now Bilovich still looking for that trio of linebackers, Holmes, Moen, and Visco, to get to the ball a little bit more quickly after it's thrown. He says they're still lacking in that jump to the ball.
Visco didn't start last week. Kevin Woolfolk did, but Visco's starting tonight so they can play 5 Americans in the secondary. Crawford at safety. First down pass by Allen. Complete, and a late hit by Carl Brazeley. Now you have to touch the man to end the play, but you don't have to hit him like that.
Well, he tattooed him pretty good.
He's just lying there.
Well, it'll cost him 15 yards. He's looking up at the Jumbotron, checking out the replay to see if, in fact, he maybe should have just put his hand down. It's fun to watch the players after plays, big plays, bad plays, regardless, look back up at the Jumbotron and see whether, in fact, they were guilty or how good they really were.
That was done fairly close to Bob Bilovich. I don't know if he's shaking his head at the call or the decision by Brazeley. The football moved to the Argo 47.5. Orville Lee carrying left side. Gerald Bayless over to make the stop. Lee gets 4 or 5.
Well, we spoke earlier about Orville Lee's production and how tough mentally it is on him. Last year at this time, after 6 games, he had 60 carries for 303 yards, an average of just a little over 5. This year, 51 carries, almost the same amount of times touching the football, but only 157 yards and a 3.1 average.
Got 5 on that play, Neil. Second down and 5. Ottawa from the Toronto 42. Allen's pass knocked down by Bayless at the line of scrimmage. Gerald Bayless made the tackle on Lee, knocks the ball down. He's a one-man show, and Ottawa will send out their field goal team. Bayless is the guy who makes things happen for that good Toronto front four.
Well, he gets up the field so quickly. He gets good separation from the offensive line, and if he can hit that seam and get back on line on his pass lane, if it happens to be a rush, that's what makes him so effective. And on stunts moving around, might not be real tall, but he's very quick and strong.
Dean Dorsey missed from 38 yards a few minutes ago. This one will be from the 49-yard line. Shimmer puts it down. Dorsey has the distance, but he looked like he pulled it left, and he did. Crawford in the end zone with it. Will he bring it out? Yes, he will. And he'll bring it out to the 19-yard line of the Toronto Argonauts, is where the officials rule he went out of bounds. So Dean Dorsey is 1 for 3 on the night, and only 9 for 15 on the season. And that's not typical of Dean Dorsey.
Seems like he punched this ball a little bit more than just coming through like an easy stroke. They compare themselves to golfers in that flow you get into. Both of them knew, I think, on contact that it wasn't going through the uprights. He pulled it left and quickly.
Now, Damon Allen normally holds for Dorsey. Shimmer's doing it tonight. That looked to us like a good hold, Neil. But again, it's hard to say what physically and what goes through the mind of Dorsey when there's a new holder in there. May or may not have something to do with it. Renfro swings it out on first down, but he threw it a little bit too far for Gil Finnerty. And there were a lot of Ottawa Rough Riders waiting for Gil to thrill, and he caught the ball.
You mentioned last week Finnerty really wasn't in his true form against the Lions. I think a lot of it had to do with not being in practice gear all week. He only practiced once. I think players have to get into that as Renfro takes a signal from the sidelines about what play to call or what situation.
2nd down and 10. Toronto at the Argo 19-yard line. 5-4, the Argos lead. 4 minutes left, first half. Renfro, big heat. Down he goes at the 9-yard line.
Well, you have to celebrate the big plays when you're down as a football team. When things like this happen, that Patrick Wayne makes happen, the defense should be flying over to him and giving him a pat. You see the stunts up front, switching around, Palumbo and Lewis. But from the outside, you've got a blitzing linebacker. This is something you have to take advantage of as a team like the Riders. Get around the guy. Get some enthusiasm going.
Lance Chomick into punt for the first time in the game. We told you that Olisic was kicking with a hamstring problem, and it looks like it's become too much of a problem. Olisic involved in a couple of tackles on punt returns, which didn't do him any good. So Chomick with a good average, but got some good bounces last week. Will punt. And the wind seemed to grab this one. Dossie at the 44, and they rule he stepped on the sideline, but Ottawa will have excellent field position with 3:21 to go in the half.
Well, once you've aggravated a pull, you might think you have it under control coming into the game. And when you warm up, all it takes is something very simple or something just out of the ordinary movement to re-pull. And obviously Hank Olisic with that stir stick that seems to be quite evident in his mouth game in and game out when he's on the sidelines is out for now.
Just for the sake of accuracy, I said it was a hamstring. It's a groin that he's pulled, but it's a pulled muscle that is bothering Hank to the point where he can't kick anymore. Ottawa Rough Riders 1st and 10 at the Toronto 39-yard line. Allen's pass is tipped and hangs in the air for what had to be an agonizingly long period of seconds, but Allen fortunately saw it fall to the turf. 3:01 to go in the first half. We are at the Sky Dome in Toronto. The Argonauts leading the Ottawa Rough Riders by 1.87 at halftime. And Neil Lumsden, I guess the situation your team is in dictates how you feel at halftime. But even though he's down by a point, Steve Goldman, the coach of the Ottawa Rough Riders, has to feel pretty good right now.
Well, I think he does feel good. He's close, and I think anytime you're close, that makes you feel good, especially against a team as potentially as explosive as Toronto. But they're shooting themselves in the foot. You mentioned it in the first quarter. Not only are the Riders doing, but so are the Argos. And I think if they can eliminate those problems and hope that Toronto continues to have problems, then they have a chance to win the game.
Toronto coach Bob Obilovich has to again be very discouraged at the play of his offensive team. Only 5 first downs and 57 net yards in the first half. Ottawa had 8 first downs and 138 net yards. So a pretty solid edge to the Ottawa Rough Riders statistically. but they're down by 1 point on the scoreboard to the Toronto Argonauts, 8-7. Lance Chomick will kick off for the Toronto Argonauts to begin the second half. The ball was misplayed and finally goes to Stacey Dossie. Billy Jackson thought about picking it up and let it go, and it was a good decision. Dossie will have to be caught by Carl Brazeley, and he is at the Toronto 23-yard line. What a start to the second half for the Ottawa Rough Riders. First down at the Toronto 24. Orville Lee carries and finds a big hole down to the 6-yard line of the Argonauts. 18 yards for Orville Lee.
Well, what sets up that run by Orville Lee is Stacey Dossie. You know, it's interesting to watch him take this return, come all the way across the field. In many situations, he'd head for the short side of the field and try to stick it up a seam, but he comes all the way around. And look at the job of blocking. Everyone gets a shot. Ulmer, good block. He goes up in between there, evades one tackler, and isn't able to gets by Chomick, but not Brazeley.
Second long return of the night for Dossie, and he also had one for around 30 yards. Robert Reed carries on first and goal from the 7-yard line of the Argos, and he gets to the 5. Tony Kimbrough at quarterback for Ottawa, as Damon Allen did not come back. Well, he is back on the sidelines now. We didn't see him come out with the rest of the team.
But he is back on the sidelines without his helmet, and it doesn't look like he has his shoulder pads on.
And there's an injured Ottawa player. Looks like an offensive lineman. Tony Kimbrough is from Western Michigan, 25 years old, 6'2", 190. He's named the Offensive Player of the Year in the Mid-American Conference last year. That's a small college conference in the United States. Great arm, according to Steve Goldman. But as with all first-year professional quarterbacks, a lot to learn.
Well, it sure will help his case if they can run the football. It'll take some of that pressure that front four can supply away and off him a bit to allow him to maybe give him a bit more time and more opportunity to read downfield.
Steve Howlett standing beside Steve Goldman. Goldman talked about what a painful process it is, but he remains very optimistic and confident. Brad Turney is the injured Ottawa Rough Rider. They're starting right guard. And they'll have to go to either Ray Robertus or Michelle Lamy. Lamy, a rookie. Robertus in his 3rd year. The Ottawa Rough Riders 0-6. We wondered, talking to Steve Goldman, if the coaches are being tough enough on the Ottawa players.
You know, most of the players know around the league that, you know, I'm a fairly tough guy and on players, and that's not really the problem that we have in Ottawa. The problem we have in Ottawa is just building a program and hanging in there with belief in what we're doing and just keep working at it. I don't believe that the players are not giving effort, though sometimes maybe we haven't. We're no different than any other team. Other teams sometimes don't give effort either because of the long season and different changes that have occurred. Injuries, taking over probably a very weak football franchise, and those are kind of things that we have to come to grips with right now and try to build this thing one step at a time.
Brad Turney leaves the field. One of the young players that Goldman hopes will be a big part of that bright future in Ottawa.
Tierney viewed this trade to Ottawa as a dream come true. Went to school at Acadia, but he grew up in Ottawa, so he said it was nice to come home, got the Grey Cup under my belt in Winnipeg, and he's been looking forward to it.
Second and goal for the Ottawa Rough Riders from the Toronto 5-yard line. Kimbrough will throw, has time in the end zone, touchdown, Gerald Wilcox.
Tony Kimbrough is going to, when he goes straight back from the center, doesn't take his eye off the left side of the field. He knows where he's going. There's nothing wrong with that. Even there at the center, he's looking over to try to make himself aware of the coverage. And he throws the ball out in front of Wilcox. Not trying to stick it in there, but let Wilcox run to it.
Good throw by Kimbrough. Wilcox had a good football game. He's showing us some of the stuff that made him the first player chosen in the draft this year. Dean Dorsey adds the convert, and the Ottawa Rough Riders have a 14-8 lead over the Toronto Argonauts. They're able to capitalize on that big kickoff return by Stacey Dawsey that set them up at the Argo 24, and Kimbrough with a run from Orberly and this touchdown pass, and they're in the end zone.
Makes you feel good to zip the ball in there as for a touchdown. He knows how important it is, and he knows where that can lead him and his offensive team if they keep doing things like that and getting big breaks that they make, like the special team return by Dawsey to set up that situation.
And that's the first touchdown, Neil, that the Argo defense has given up in the last 3 games. They have not surrendered a touchdown in the last 2 outings against Winnipeg and BC. And of course, the reason for that is that the reason Ottawa was able to score here, the big return and special teams gave up the touchdowns they surrendered in the 2 games I'm talking about.
Well, you have to treat your special teams as a third of the game, because that's how much time it takes up. And it looks like it was an offensive play for the Riders on that last situation.
And when you give the other team the ball on your 24-yard line, again, you can't fault a defense very much for not preventing the touchdown. Carl Brazeley with a return. Dan Johnston, playing his first CFL game, made the tackle. That's Brad Turney, the injured right guard of the Ottawa Rough Riders.
Well, you talk to the coaches about these games, 3-day games in 11 days, and the situations and what it creates with injuries. There's a number of things and ways you can deal with it, which we'll talk earlier or later about as we look at Renfro's numbers.
Well, you no doubt heard the boos as Renfro comes back out to start the second half. Fans want to see John Conjemi. Alex Carter has Gil Fennerty for very little gain, a yard, and that's about it.
Well, you know, you find certain things out about your players. The Riders had a day off last week, and in that day off, Alex Carter was in the dressing room, one of only 3 players around, working out, doing squats with some ridiculous number of poundage, like 500 or 600 pounds. But he was in there working, realizing that he has to get better.
Chris Schultz out of the game. Dave Kinsey is playing left tackle for the Argos to our 2nd and 9 at their 52-yard line. Renfro throws way over the head of Paul Mazzotti, and the boos rain down once again. Steve Goldman is enjoying hearing those, I can guarantee you that. You know, it's interesting. Obilovich comes back with Renfro. Alessic comes back in the game, so the Argos have him back to try punting again. But Renfro in the second quarter really looked confused and unsettled and all the rest.
It doesn't look himself, does he? Even when he drops back, he's not throwing the ball with the same type of zip and authority.
And you wonder why we wouldn't see Conjemi to start the second half. Now, he still has a bit of a problem with that ankle, and that could be the reason. He may not be 100%. This is Dawsey. He's provided some great returns for Ottawa tonight, and that came close to being another one. Still on his feet. Finally down at the 29-yard line. Foster's Lager and the Canadian Football Network, bringing you the best of the CFL. Damon Allen has his pads off. We won't see him again tonight. He took a helmet in the back. Tony Kimbrough will quarterback the Ottawa Rough Riders. 1st and 10 at their own 29. They lead Toronto 14-8. 11.5 minutes left. We're in the 3rd quarter. Kimbrough straight back to pass. And he'll take off and run. Fight for an extra yard to the 31. And we'll gain 2. Brad Turney, right guard of the Ottawa Rough Riders, has a sprained ankle. He says he'll be back. And there's John Conjemi, backup quarterback for the Argos tonight. The backup tonight. I know you don't like that reference, Neil. The backup tonight, warming up.
Well, the way he seems to be dropping back, doesn't seem like that ankle's giving him any problem. But again, it's just, like you say, warming up.
2nd and 8. Ottawa from its own 31-yard line. Kimbrough throws and completes it to Gerald Alphin. They will spot the ball at the 39-yard line, and that is close to an Ottawa first down. They may have to bring the chains across and measure. Just to give you the final update on the injury situation, Chris Schultz, the left tackle for the Toronto Argonauts, excuse me, has a knee injury, and he will not be back tonight. So both these teams, battered and beaten up coming into this game, have a string of injuries continue.
And all coaches are concerned about that. But we've talked, as I mentioned earlier, about 3 games in 11 days. Hamilton's going into that now. Toronto's coming out of it. It's a real concern for many reasons. For management, they're running out of players. How can you get in a situation where you, like last week for Ottawa, Ken Avrere, who's a slot back, plays safety, ends up dislocating or separating his shoulder on a tackle. How do you combat that? What do you do? Start the season a little bit later and cut down in games, or increase the rosters so you've got more players to work with?
Well, the coaches in the league, all of them would like to see larger rosters. Ottawa Rough Riders, 3rd and a foot, and they're going to go for it. Kimbrough drops the snap, but is able to pick it up and get about 3 yards. Kimbrough hasn't taken the snap real smooth since he came into the game. That time he fumbled it, but that time the Ottawa Rough Riders got a break.
Well, I'd like to have seen Steve Goldman's face when that snap came out. Watch the surge in the offensive line. It's so good that he has enough of a chance to pick that ball back up. It collapses into just a big heap there, and then he jumps over the right-hand side.
I wonder how many times Steve Goldman's heart jumped on that one. 1st and 10, Riders at their 42. Orville Lee, left side, has room and is able to keep his balance long enough to get across the 50 to the 51. That's close to 10 yards. Orville Lee seeing lots of the football tonight and having a good night.
You know, when you're not totally confident in what you're supposed to do as an offense, and as you're learning, you become a little bit passive, not only in your blocking, but I think in your running. But in the last few times that Orville Lee's gotten the ball, the last time down near the goal line and here, I see him running with more of the reckless abandon. And those numbers show that he is running that much harder and making the yardage.
He only had 157 yards on the season coming into the game. 56 he's tacked on tonight as Kimbrough on 2nd and a foot keeps off the right side. And looks like he got the first down.
It's amazing when there's a quarterback change because of injury and the other 11 players on offense realize that Kimbrough's in there. All right, we better tighten it up, fellas, and work that much harder. The kind of effect it can have on your offense.
Well, especially when it's a rookie quarterback, too. Willie Fears was in to provide some blocking. 9 minutes, make that 8:45 left in the 3rd quarter. Ottawa leading 14-8. And 1st and 10 at their own 52-yard line. Kimbrough, and it looked like his arm was hit. The ball is hanging in the air and intercepted by Ed Berry. And Berry may score. Stopped at the 5. Gerald Bayless, who was instrumental in that interception by Ed Berry by touching the arm of Tony Kimbrough into block. 1st and goal, Argos at the Ottawa 5. Conjemi now quarterbacking Toronto. Puts it into the end zone, and that one almost fell into the arms of Tony Williams of the Ottawa Rough Riders.
We go back to that interception where Bayless works quickly upfield, gets that seam, and then gets to the quarterback. You'll see it on the left part bottom of your screen. Just enough to throw that ball into a lame duck, and what an outstanding return by Berry. I thought for sure he'd try to take it straight up the sidelines. He comes back, and his defensive players, all 11 of them, turned into an offensive team, and they threw some great blocks out there.
Had a chance to get it all the way there. Came up 5 yards short. 2nd and goal for the Argos. Conjemi, Finnerty, touchdown.
Finnerty in that motion out of the backfield. He gets the advantage. 34, Charles Merritt has to stay at home just until the very end when he does have to go out on Finnerty. And he's got good coverage. It wasn't for a great catch. It just, you know, he made it look too easy.
Well, the Argos needed something like that to get their offense moving. Chomick adds the convert, and Toronto back in front, 15-14. That score coming at the 7-minute, 10-second mark of the third quarter. That's just a little bit of greatness by Gil Finnerty.
Jimmy moves to his right, the offensive line. See them all step to the right to cut off any kind of pursuit or anyone to get through a gap to get in Jemmy's face. They do it successfully, though there was pressure late. Didn't matter. The ball's gone and in the end zone.
It's only the second touchdown pass of the year by the Toronto Argonauts. The first one by Jemmy. Renfro threw the other one. Hit Jeff Boyd with one last week. And then you think about that, and it's just it's really hard to believe. And the Argos had only scored 10 touchdowns on the year coming into this game. That is their 11th. And Finnerty, he doesn't have any trouble scoring touchdowns. That was his 35th in 36 career games. A remarkable statistic.
Well, when you're as elusive as a running back, both catching the ball out of the backfield and carrying it, they go to him whenever they can, and he always comes up big for them.
Chomick's kickoff. Stacey Dossie finds another alley, and he's tripped up at the 51-yard line of Toronto by Kevin Woolfolk. The designated import, Dossie, 36 yards on that one. What a night he's had.
Interesting, on the depth chart at the press conference, they had Dossie starting as the wide receiver spot, and Goldman said, no, that's a mistake. Ward will start. Dossie's in here predominantly as a special teams guy. Look at him pick his way. Goes laterally till he sees a seam, and then he just doesn't really turn on the jets till he gets past that first wave. They've got a good one with him on special teams.
So the Riders down now, but in good field position at the Toronto 51. Kimbrough short drop. Quick throw, and no good. Intended for Reggie Ward, but he couldn't hold on.
Well, in a practice situation, if an offense, for example, during the week is going to run 30 plays, Damon Allen will probably run 20 of them, Kimbrough getting only a chance to run 10. So his relationship with his receivers won't be quite as crisp as a Damon Allen's might be.
And he looks a little ponderous, too, when he drops back, Neil. He doesn't get back real quick and real smooth. 2nd and 10 now from the Toronto 51-yard line. Polka giving chase, and Kimbrough back to the line of scrimmage. And that'll be all. And Steve Goldman won't want to see a lot of those plays with Damon Allen injured and done for the night. If Mr. Kimbrough gets hurt, we have one of those intriguing situations that we often think about.
Well, you know, that's to the side where the Kimbrough is trying to sprint. So that is simply a mistake by someone on the left side of the offensive line or a back. Because when you're going to that side and you're attacking it, there should be a defensive man for every blocker, because they weren't outnumbered.
3rd down and just about 10 for Ottawa from the Toronto 51. Dossie's good return doesn't get Ottawa any points, but it should give them good field position on defense unless Larry Crawford can make a good run back. And he's down at the 1-yard line. They're going to give him the 1. Penalty flags on the play. Excellent coverage by the Ottawa Rough Riders. Billy Jackson, a linebacker for the Ottawa Rough Riders, was injured, making an excellent play on special teams to pin the Toronto Argonauts at their 1-yard line. Steve Goldman will check his depth chart and find John Ulmer and Bob Forrest, a rookie in his first CFL game, as the backups in that position, and Ulmer is the one who will go into the game. His 5th year in the league, picked up from BC this year. We're talking to Goldman about injuries, and Bob Obilovich looks on, great concern on his face. He said, we can't afford any injuries to start with. Goldman does. And then when we get into our 3rd line of people, we're really in a desperate situation. Gil Finnerty bursts up the middle, tries to take it outside, gets to the 14, and Argo 1st down and gives them a little room with which to work.
A great job at the point of blocking by the guys in the middle, Beckstead, Kardish, and Schmidt, the 2 guards and the center, as they're all going to take a quick peek. Watch the cross. Watch where Beckstead goes to center. Out. Guard Schmidt comes out, takes Ulmer, one break tackle and you're through. Just hitting that hole quickly enough allows the offensive lineman just get up and screen the man.
Finnerty gets it again and finds much more room to the 30.
Ottawa had the ideal situation. Toronto pinned in their own end. That's when you want to get 2 plays and out. Here again, that shuffle step that Finnerty's so good at. Hits up in there through there. You see tacklers reaching for him, and then just like a half an inch too late all the time.
And you have to think that the injury to Jackson has something to do with all of a sudden the Argos' ability to find some holes to run the ball. Pass intended for Hudson, no good. He was hit very hard by Tyrone Pope. John Congemi took over from Gilbert Renfro on the last offensive series of the Argonauts. 5 minutes to go. We're in the 3rd quarter, and Toronto leads 15-14. You know, when Finnerty scored that touchdown, he looked mad when he caught the ball. He got up and he pushed one of his teammates away almost, or congratulating him, and he's running like he's a little angry now.
Nothing wrong with that.
Frustrated with the Toronto offense, no doubt. No, you're right, nothing at all. Here's a deflection, and it came close to going into the arms of Tony Williams.
Bill Jackson, the linebacker we told you came out after making that great special teams play, has the ankle completely exposed. The tape's been cut off, and they're taking a very close look at it. A good aggressive defense on that last play also by the Riders, bringing Tyrone Pope up from his halfback spot. He's the one who tipped the ball. So you see the Riders getting their backs up a bit and coming after him.
Hank Olisic skipped a few punts in the 2nd quarter. He has a full groin muscle, but he's back in now. 3rd down and 10 Toronto from the Argo 30. Not a very good kick by Olisic, but they've got a pretty good bounce to Stacey Dossie at the Ottawa 40. And there's a flag down as Dossie evades a couple of tacklers and then is pushed out of bounds at the Ottawa 37. With the score, Toronto 15, Ottawa 14. We pause 10 seconds for the stations from coast to coast to identify themselves. You're watching the Canadian Football Network. One-yard kick by Olisic, and then the penalty against Ottawa on the return puts the Rough Riders back at their 26-yard line. Tony Kimbrough on the offense. Kimbrough replacing Damon Allen in the final minute of the 1st half. Allen took a helmet in the back and will not be back. Kimbrough to Byron Williams, complete up at the 40-yard line, a gain of 14 or 15 yards. But there is a penalty. Ken Lazarick, the head referee, moving upfield.
Roughing the passer. Toronto number 70. 1st down Ottawa.
Harold Hallman from the outside rush position. Watch the protection Kimbrough is afforded here. Nice pocket. He needs the time to throw this pattern. The ball was well away, and that's what it's called for, unnecessary roughness.
Hallman taking a good shot at Kimbrough and paying for it. 15 yards. It puts the ball in Toronto territory at the Argo 54. Orbelee carries, has some room initially, thought about going outside, and then took it back off tackle and picked up 4 to the 50. Maybe got to the 49 of Toronto, which would give him a 5-yard gain.
Well, they're running that draw out of that sprint formation. They've been successful at times with that sprint, and if you can get the defense to adjust and get some people like the end to stand up and adjust to when the running back Skinner comes up, that leaves a gap there unless the middle linebacker comes over to fill it.
I asked Lee what would be a good game for him tonight. He said, 45 carries, exaggerating just a bit, but he wants the ball, and he's had it a lot tonight. 2nd down from the Argo 50. Kimbrough hit just as he threw the ball. It's an incomplete pass as he did get some forward motion with the arm. Polka Visco was also in there.
Well, the pressure came from both the inside and the out, and the reason that the backside was exposed as Leo Groenwagen is down is the running back stepped up to pick up Larry Crawford, the safety who was blitzing. So Tony Visco from the outside. See Skinner come up and take Crawford. The right move. You work and block inside out. But he has to be aware of Visco, and Visco just hammers him from the backside. You know, Chris Skinner is aware of who he has to block. You don't wait in the backfield. You get in the line of scrimmage and jam them. Don't give them a chance to run at you. Great job by Skinner, but they're outmanned. And Kimbrough didn't recognize that until bang.
And if he slips by, just grab him a little bit, as long as you don't make it too obvious.
You know, your hand can get caught in the sleeve or something like that.
Larry Crawford, 5-time Western All-Star, 4-time All-Canadian, and a terrific player in the CFL.
We talked about some players not being happy. Todd Wiseman, who has normally been playing that safety spot, was bounced out. Not because he hasn't been doing well either, but Bob Obilovich wants a little bit more impact from that safety spot and feels that Larry Crawford can give it to him because of his range and his movement. Because the safety position as a middle linebacker position can't be one of those quiet positions. It's got to be someone, well, Flegel is a good example. Makes the big plays. Sometimes he'll occasionally hurt you, but usually he makes the big ones.
Well, we wondered if Orville Lee, after his Rookie of the Year season last year, was bothered by the public's perception of his poor production this year.
I'm very confident in my abilities if given the opportunity. You know, I don't look at that and say, oh shoot, you know, I'm having a terrible year, I might as well call it quits. I'm not a quitter, and neither, you know, is the organization, the coaches, or anybody on the team. So you just have to go out there and keep working hard, and there has to be some light at the end of the tunnel. You know, I'm by no stretch of the imagination a quitter, and you just got to keep running, keep blocking, keep catching, and keep doing the fundamentals of football to be successful, and that's what we have to do, and that's what we will do tonight.
Certainly light at the end of the tunnel tonight for Ottawa. 0-6 on the year, but down just 1 point, 15-14 against Toronto with 3 minutes left in the third quarter at the Skydome. Ottawa punting from the Argo 50. Schimmer, good kick. Crawford at the 14-yard line, and he finds some room down that right sideline, as only Crawford can, up to the 29.
Ottawa's in a tough situation. Leo Groenwagen getting his leg looked at. Brad Tierney is already out with a sprained ankle.
And what they did, Neil, was they put Robertus at center and moved Irv Damon from center to right guard when Tierney went out. And now if Groenwagen can't play, Michel Lamy, a rookie, will have to be pressed into service, as they say. John Kangemi, and the Toronto offense will start from the Argo 29. Jimmy fakes the handoff. Finnerty throws the pass to Hudson. Makes a good grab as Merritt tried for the interception and didn't get it, allowing Hudson to make the catch and pick up close to 10 yards.
Warren Hudson's one of those guys that goes unnoticed. Look at him. He's like it's going to be a lead block, but kind of a sneaky lead block. He leaks out into the flat, and Kangemi finds him open. Hudson doesn't get to carry the ball much. Actually, that's an understatement. He's only carried once this year for 4 yards, but has played a big part in blocking for Gil Finnerty.
That's his 4th catch of the year. Damon Allen, Steve Goldman helping young Tony Kimbrough out on the sideline at the Ottawa bench. Kimbrough seems pretty cool as we look at him there, but he has to feel some pressure, given that the game is so close. And Ottawa 0-6. It's great to go in and get some. Well, I'd want to play in that situation, obviously, but it's a little easier maybe to get some playing time and less of a pressure situation. That was just the 9th first down of the night for the Argos. Gil Finnerty looks for number 10. He gains 7 yards toward that end, but there's a penalty, and it will go against the Argonauts.
Having watched the Rider defense tonight as compared to last week against Edmonton, I see more Rider defenders around the ball more quickly, be it a passer than a run, than I have for most of this year.
That's horseshit! That is bad!
Hard to believe it's the same defense that we watched last week.
Holding. Toronto number 37. First down repeated.
Well, you look at last week and they talk about teams getting into a rhythm. The Eskimos were not only in a rhythm, they had a 5-piece orchestra going for them because they were unbelievable.
Well, you could say that, and you did. 1st and 20, Argos. From their 29, Billy Jackson is back in the game at middle linebacker for the Ottawa Rough Riders. There was a holding penalty against Warren Hudson, as you heard. Kangemi gets away from Fears and then is pulled down from behind by Gary Columbus.
Columbus, who in the earlier part of the season got a chance to start, then got a sore ankle. But his real thrust as you see him go up the middle there. Two people taking him on. He spins to the wide side. Forced out. Kangemi's forced by Fears, but the quickness of Columbus, but not trying to chase, but coming laterally. Go flat. Then you can get the, get from behind and pull him down as he did. No sense in trying to chase a quarterback because they are faster.
Ottawa now leading in sacks on the night, 3-2. Second down and about 27 yards to go for the Argos. Kangemi has Mazzotti open and finds him up at the 43-yard line of Toronto. And so they buy back some of that yardage, but will be third down and 6 and will be forced into a punting situation.
Well, Damon Allen the season has gone on, has taken a pretty good beating, mostly due to not bad play or not guys that weren't trying, but assignments being broken. As Steve Goldman pointed out in that little talk, we try hard. Just because we're getting beaten by 30 points doesn't mean we're going out there and trying to bust ourselves and do a good job.
3rd and 6, Argos at their 43. Olisic to punt. Stacey Dossie on the run. He can't hang on. There's a penalty flag down. The Argos have the ball. And Steve Goldman can only hope that the penalty wipes out the fumble by Dossie. But it doesn't.
Well, the hazards of trying to catch a ball, especially if the ball is belly up and coming down.
Holding. 16 Ottawa. Decline.
Dossie's had a big night. So he's pumped up, and he figures I can do anything at this stage.
And he's making the right decision by trying to catch the ball in the air. But as I said, with the ball with the belly up coming down, it kind of comes down funny. It wobbles. And that's what he got caught. You see, as just the ball gets to him, he realizes he's another yard short, falling down and trying to reach for it.
Warren Hudson recovering, and the Argos have it at the Ottawa 34. 20 seconds left, third quarter. Finnerty on a draw. And that one is stopped by Lewis and Columbus before it had a chance to get started. And it's not amazing, but we watched Edmonton play Ottawa last week and march the ball up and down the field. 39 first downs the Eskimos had. Tonight a different story. Have to also take into consideration it's the Argo offense they're working against. Sputtering offense. Kangemi puts it up for Darrell Smith, and he makes the grab at the 10 down to the 7-yard line. That play ends.
Introducing Minivac, the amazing miniature cleaning system designed to take on hundreds of chores no ordinary tools can handle. Minivac cleans away dust from camera lenses, computer keyboards, figurines, or stereo equipment. Minivac's powerful motor vacuums away dust and dirt. It comes with 2 wand attachments, 2 ultra-soft brush nozzles, and a reusable vacuum bag. Keep one in the car for cleaning along the dash, steering column, stereo, ashtrays, and seats. Minivac is perfect for removing dust and debris from pictures, models, and those impossible-to-reach crevices. In this special television offer, you get Minivac with all 5 attachments, plus convenient storage case for only $19.95. Here's how to order.
Credit card and COD customers call toll-free 1-800-544-1000 or save COD fees by sending $19.95 plus $4 shipping and handling to Minivac, P.O. Box 121, Plainville, Connecticut. Or call now 1-800-544-1000.
Is that man spying? You bet he is. Al Bruno, the head coach of the Hamilton Tiger Cats, sizing up 2 of his Eastern opponents here at the Sky Dome in Toronto. John Kangemi, first and goal. Into the end zone. Touchdown, Mazzotti.
A little bit of a backdoor play, the same type of thing that Finnerty scored on earlier. Motion left, everything's coming. Finnerty, as a matter of fact, is going to come right at you. But watch Kangemi look to that one side and then goes in the back door with Mazzotti just simply running a crossing pattern and getting in front of Tony Williams. Making a great catch, too.
Yeah, it was 2 touchdown passes now for Kangemi, his first 2 of the season. The convert added by Lance Chomick, and the Argonaut lead is now 22-14. Kangemi had 0 touchdown passes and 3 interceptions heading into this game. for Mazzotti, his first touchdown. And that Argo offense, which had one touchdown pass all season, has doubled its output here in the span of about 8 minutes of play.
And Jemmy's looked very sharp at quarterback. His play selection, throwing the football, not afraid to try to put it in the different receivers' hands.
And turnovers leading directly to these 2 Toronto touchdowns. The fumble by Dossie on the punt return just a couple of plays ago, and then Ed Berry's interception when Tony Kimbrough's arm was hit, which he ran back to the Ottawa 5-yard line. Both those turned into touchdowns. And Steve Goldman now is looking at a very difficult situation. His team down by 8 points with his #1 quarterback on the bench.
And made a very good point today by saying continuity in your players leads to execution and improvement of that execution. And you can't have continuity if people keep getting hurt and you keep changing faces. Just can't be there.
Chomick will kick off. Orville Lee, trouble with a low bouncer, runs into one of his own players and drives him ahead. Steve Howlett drilled him ahead about 4 yards and got it back to the 39. Tony Kimbrough in a situation that will teach him a lot right now. See how he handles it. Drops back to pass. Don Moen sacks him.
Moen really becomes one of the unsung heroes in this Argo defense. This is his 125th consecutive game. Look at the blocking to the backside. You see Alphen stays in. Orville Lee comes to that side to pick up Moen, but he has to come across the formation and make the adjustment a little bit too late. And he's playing with some bang. He's got a sore shoulder, sore ankle.
Gutting it out, as they say in football. Moen is not going to come out of the lineup unless he absolutely can't play. Kimbrough's pass, a good one. And Gerald Wilcox had it bounce off his hands. Now, Wilcox made a couple of excellent catches tonight. That was perhaps his easiest, and he couldn't squeeze it.
Well, Bob Abilovich told us the problems they've been having is drop footballs. Many times there's an excuse for it with someone around you harassing you as a defender, and then sometimes there's not an excuse for it. It's just lack of concentration and focus on what you have to do first, catch it, and then go with it.
Concentrating is something that is acquired, has to be learned. 3rd down and 17 or 18 for Ottawa from its 31. Schimmer just got it away. And Crawford caught it on the run and got to the Ottawa 52-yard line. $33,060 at the Sky Dome in Toronto. 13 minutes to go. The Argos leading Ottawa by 8. And 1st and 10 at the Ottawa 53. And Hudson has a swing pass from Conjemi. And big Warren Hudson pulls his way to the Ottawa 35.
Well, we told you earlier Chris Schultz was out of the game because of an injury, and he's glad to see his offense moving the ball effectively without him. No, I'm sure he'd rather be in there. See Hudson step to the right, check for linebacker, no linebackers coming, so he gets a swing. Now that swing pass allows him to catch the ball while he's going upfield, and that's bad news for the defense, especially the defensive backs, because he's a big guy.
Gil Finnerty on 1st down, carries for 9. Patrick Wayne, 35, made the stop. Finnerty at 578 rushing yards on the season coming into this game. He's well past 600, around 650 now. Scored his 8th touchdown of the year. That came in the 3rd quarter. Late in the, or about midway through the 3rd quarter. And has run with abandon in this 2nd half when he's had a chance to. 2nd down and a yard, and Finnerty fumbles. And Ottawa gets it back. Brett Young first game in professional football at cornerback for Ottawa, has an interception and a fumble recovery.
Good close look at Finnerty and watch his moves. Cuts back inside, gets going upfield quickly, but you see the ball pop there. The hit from behind, I believe Willie Fears, 99, is where the contact came from. And Brett Young just simply coming up and trying to be part of the tackle. Ended up the reason Ottawa's got the ball going the other way.
Bright spot in this game for the Riders. Brett Young, 22-year-old, playing his first CFL game. Kimbrough and the Riders now, and they're 19. Hand off to Orville Lee, and Rodney Harding runs him down after Lee gained 4 yards.
I think Steve Goldman now has a better understanding of what Brett Young can do for this football team if he remains healthy. It seems like we should say that about everybody, the way the injuries have been going. Some questions have been answered, I think, for Mike Roach and Steve Goldman, as Orville Lee comes off. He's been in and out this game, swapping with Robert Reed, and it almost looks like he's got a bit of a limp, like something's bothering him.
Reed in with a play on 2nd and 6. Reed and Skinner the setbacks for Tony Kimbrough. The ball at the Ottawa 23. Kimbrough, Brazeley coming on a blitz. Kimbrough is able to get away from him, and he gets the ball downfield as he is pummeled and completes it up at the 51-yard line to Reggie Ward. Kimbrough really took a hit.
That's a good job, all right. I'll tell you, and I think he understood when he was laying on the ground. I have to get up because there's no one else. Reggie Ward's going to go down. Now, the pressure came from a blitzing Carl Brazeley. This pattern is no longer in place. Find an opening and get to it. And that ball was well on the way, but Kimbrough took a heck of a shot.
Oh, well, you're right. He looked like it occurred to him. I'm hurting, but we don't have anybody else. I'm back in the game. 1st and 10 at the Ottawa 51. Kimbrough hands to Orville Lee. Good room to the 50 of the Argos and into their 49. He'll be close to a first down. Just over 10 minutes to go. We're in the 4th quarter. Toronto leads Ottawa 22-14.
Left tackle, Leo Groenewegen pulling inside. He's going to kick out. Orville Lee will find that seam as he did there and get upfield. And we are seeing, as I said earlier, a little bit more of what Orville Lee showed us last year. That explosiveness, you know, the tenacity of going through there. Not letting one guy grab you and the spinning and jumping around.
14 carries, 74 yards. Good night for Orville Lee. Best of the season as Kimbrough throws on 2nd down and completes it to Gerald Wilcox. And that's at the 33-yard line of the Argos. Well, Wilcox has shown unmistakable signs of having the capabilities to be an outstanding player.
Watch the adjustments along the offensive line. You're seeing some stunts. Groenewegen, good contact. The guard has to move over. You have to be able, as an offensive lineman, to go to the line of scrimmage and not just stare at someone in front of you and say, I've got to block him. You have to see the whole picture, because you may have to adjust and move around.
Groenewegen was hurt just a short time ago, but he's able to play on. 1st and 10 Ottawa, Toronto 33. Kimbrough throws, no good. The pass was there, but it went through the hands of the intended receiver, Steve Howlett. So Kimbrough throws the ball a little bit harder than Damon Allen does. I'm trying to excuse Howlett, who's upset with himself, and is replaced by 87 Gerald Wilcox. 2nd and 10. Kimbrough and the Ottawa Rough Riders at the 33 of Toronto. Kimbrough sprints right into the waiting arms of Biscoe, but gets the ball off and completes it at the 20 of the Argos. Reggie Ward makes the catch.
Kimbrough quite comfortable of moving and throwing the football. Watch, he's going to our left, to his right. Offensive line blocking down. Orville Lee just gets enough of Tony Biscoe to make him go outside and have to come back in, which allowed a throwing lane for Kimbrough, and Reggie Ward makes the catch.
Kimbrough doing a nice job.
Seems more comfortable moving and throwing, though, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. 1st and 10 at the Toronto 20. Kimbrough to Orville Lee. And that hole closed up very quickly as Holmes, the middle linebacker, got in there to plug it up, and Lee picked up only a yard to the Toronto 19. Holmes with 38 tackles heading into this game. 4th best total in the CFL. He played very well in the middle for the Argonauts, who had Ben Zambiazzi there late last season. Second down and 9 for the Ottawa Rough Riders, trailing by 8 points. 7:55 left, fourth quarter. They're at the Toronto 19-yard line. Kimbrough, quick throw. Byron Williams to the 6. First down, Ottawa. Some of the people here are cheering for the Rough Riders.
Well, you got to have a soft spot in your heart.
I guess.
Kimbrough, good read again. They're showing him blitz down close when you back up the Argonauts. Watch, Larry Crawford's going to come in. The running back, Skinner, has to come up and pick up Holmes. Kimbrough reads that and throws the ball inside on a quick slant to Williams. The only adjustment he could make, and he made it.
That was impressive. Kimbrough, first and goal now, Ottawa at the Argo 5. Orbelee gets the football. Will he find the end zone? No. Gets to the 2-yard line. Harold Hallman gets up off the bottom of the pile.
Lee's had more work tonight than he's seen in a long time. I'm sure he's loving it, even if he's got a couple of nicks and he's feeling sore. This is the type of feeling as a running back likes to. Yeah, you throw the hurts and the bumps away. And then you don't get the ball if they think you're hurt.
Second and goal from the Toronto 2. Lee and Skinner the setbacks. Skinner in motion. And Kimbrough to Orbelee. And there was a foul up there, and Lee is stopped for a loss of 3.
There's no question. You said foul up. A foul up in the biggest way, right down in the goal line. Watch where everyone's going. Backs are set to your right. Skinner goes to your right to lead block. Kimbrough opens and is ready to pitch to the backside, and that just half a second allows Crawford and Hallman and the rest of the guys in blue to just completely smother Orbelee.
Whose mistake do you think that was?
Oh, it's the quarterback. Yeah. He's turning the wrong way.
Well, and Goldman consoling him at the sidelines.
He'll get another chance.
From the 12-yard line, Dean Dorsey will attempt a field goal, and he will make it. And that gets the Ottawa Rough Riders a little bit closer with 5:56 left in the third quarter.
Let's kick off. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go.
9:04 the time of the Dorsey field goal here in the fourth quarter. I think I might have said third quarter. We're in the fourth, so I don't confuse you.
Let's go. Let's go, John.
Lee Morris at the 16-yard line returns it for the Argos. Ran into a pile at the 31, but was able to slip off and get up close to the 35. And that Dorsey field goal made it a 5-point game. The Ottawa Rough Riders trailing the Argos 22-17. John Congemi came off the bench early in the third quarter to throw a couple of touchdown passes for Toronto. Put them in the lead. And Tony Kimbrough, in relief of injured Damon Allen, has done a nice job at quarterback for Ottawa. Kennedy the lone setback. But Congemi's going to put it in the air. And it's intercepted. No, not quite. Almost. I was convinced Patrick Wayne had it. He thinks he should have. It was thrown right to him, or so it looked, by Congemi.
I think, you're right. I think he had it, and he thought he did, but Emmanuel Tolbert has to turn around and play a little bit of defense here. He makes his move, comes back to the ball. The ball's thrown, and Wayne does a good job of moving to that area. But Tolbert knows immediately he's got to strip that ball and pull it back or do whatever the heck he has to do to get Wayne to drop the ball.
And it was Tolbert's effort that broke up the interception. As Congemi sprints right and throws, there's a flag down. The pass complete to Mazzotti, but we do have a penalty. Procedure against the Argonauts, and of course the Ottawa Rough Riders will take it. 5:10 left, fourth quarter. Toronto up by 5.
Legal procedure. Toronto number 1. Second down, repeated.
Now Bob Obilovich has to still be concerned about his offense, Neil, although Congemi has made it work better in this second half. And his special teams. Stacey Dossie has burned the Argonauts on 4 occasions with good returns tonight. As Congemi on 2nd and 15 throws to a wide open Lee Morris. who's down at the 47 of Toronto, but that's good for 17 yards and a first down.
Well, Lee Morris does a nice job of getting himself open. There's no one around him, but the better job is getting downfield and going past where the first down marker is so he can come back a step or so to the football, and if he's tackled at the point, they still have the first down. So he knows where he's going, how to get open, but more importantly, where that is going past the first down marker.
4 minutes, 20 seconds to go. Argos from their 47.5 will give it to Finnerty, which isn't a bad idea at the best of times. And he gets 9 off right tackle. Don't know how much of the game they're watching, but they're having fun at the Sky Dome.
Anytime the camera's around, the kids are around.
Yeah. Well, the Argos are leading this game, but it's been touch and go all the way. 22-17 Toronto. 3:40 left now as the Argos work the clock and work Finnerty, who has a first down, to the Ottawa 51-yard line.
Well, if you've got that running game going for you, the big Warren Hudson out in front, if they can keep that 7-8 yards in the first down, that's important because it keeps the clock running. It's going to tire the heck out of that Ottawa defense.
Ball control, what the Argos are looking for, Neil, as you said, and they're at the Ottawa 51 now. I have a feeling we're going to see Finnerty a few more times before this drive is over. Oh, Jemmy's going to put it up, but he'll screen to Finnerty, who goes high in the air, brings it down, and is into the Ottawa 48-yard line. Good pursuit by the Ottawa defense to hold Finnerty to a gain of 3 yards.
Specifically backside Alex Carter. Look, he's going to rush, go to the outside. They want to try to cut him. Carter recognized it immediately. Another nice one-handed catch by Finnerty, but good hustle by Carter to come back inside and help out.
2 minutes, 57 seconds left. We're in the fourth quarter at the Sky Dome. The Argos up by 5 and 2nd and 7 at the Ottawa 48. Jemmy for Finnerty and overthrows him because of the pressure from Charles Merritt, blitzing linebacker for Ottawa.
Well, if you're going to expose yourself defensively and you're going to bring some people, you better get to the quarterback quickly. And Merritt and Ulmer do exactly that by disrupting Kangemi, not only physically getting on top of him, but making him throw the ball, not necessarily where he wants to, and more quickly than he wanted to.
Well, Steve Goldman not playing it safe on defense, blitzing on that play, disrupting the pass. Of course, Ottawa has to get the ball back, and they have to take it downfield and get a touchdown if they hope to win. 3rd down and 7. Argos at the Ottawa 48. Olesic to punt. Angling it to the sidelines and away from Stacey Dossie, and it bounces out of bounds at the Ottawa 18-yard line with 2 minutes and 34 seconds left in the fourth quarter. Argonauts have 7 straight wins over Ottawa dating back to 1987, and Bob Obelovich has a very good record against the Riders of 14-4 since he became head coach in Toronto in 1982.
Funny asking him about, do you feel sorry for Ottawa and their situation? He says, yeah, I feel sorry for what's going on in there, and I feel badly for the players and the coaches. But when we play them, I don't care. I want to kick them down and get them down and keep them down.
There's a 3-hour period here where the sympathy evaporates. Ken Lazarick, the head referee, talking something over with the Ottawa Rough Riders. Not sure what, but we're ready to go. Tony Kimbrough, the rookie quarterback, came into the game in the last minute of the first half when Damon Allen took a helmet in the back and has done a good job, all things considered. First down from the 18. The pass complete to Alphen up at the 27-yard line to make that the 32-yard line, a 15-yard gain and an Ottawa first down.
We've seen a fair amount of man coverage in different situations. Crawford backing straight out, playing it safe. Man on the other side with Carl Brazeley and Alphen. Balls, again, to the credit of Kimbrough, was right on the button to the outside where it can't be knocked down and only caught by one man.
And that time he looked left and threw right. He looks like he's getting into the flow a little bit more all the time, and that would be a natural thing to occur as Orville Lee carries on first down and runs right into an Argo after gaining perhaps a yard.
Well, Bayless again gets an opportunity to slant to the play, which he does so well with that quickness he possesses.
Second down and 9. Riders at their 34. 2 minutes 15 seconds to go. They're down by 5. Kimbrough back to pass. Blitz, but the Riders pick it up. And Byron Williams picked up by Kimbrough, and he's to center field with a first down.
Once again, Kimbrough under pressure. Reads the pressure and throws to who seems to be his favorite target when he gets in that situation, Byron Williams.
Well, Kimbrough is doing a great job of everything at this stage, Neil. A big rush coming his way, and he coolly continued to backpedal and got the ball off with good zip, good accuracy. First and 10 at center field, 1:50 to go. Here's a fumble. Again, trouble on the exchange. And Kimbrough's had that happen 2 or 3 times. 2-yard loss. There is a penalty flag on the play as well. Offside Toronto. So a break for Ottawa.
Maybe just a little bit too anxious to come away from the center without securing the snap. And there's the early movement. And that's the reason the ball came loose.
First down repeated.
Steve Goldman has to be thinking, is this going to be our day? Are things going to go in our favor in the last minute 50?
I think his stomach's churning a little bit. First and 5, Ottawa from the Toronto 50. Kimbrough looks for Alphen, who's open over the middle, but Kimbrough either underthrew him or overthrew Gerald Wilcox. I think he was intending it for Wilcox.
Just trying to drop it over the inside shoulder. Wilcox had position and then tried to adjust where the ball was thrown straight up the seam.
Alphen was one-on-one against Brazeley and had 2 steps on him. See if they spotted that upstairs. 1:45 left, 4th quarter. Not that the Argos will be in the same defense again. 2nd and 5, Ottawa. Toronto 50-yard line. Kimbrough to pass. Looking, I think, for Alphen, but he took it inside. The pass went outside. Reggie Ward, the other receiver, just took it straight upfield. And so Ottawa, with 3rd and 5 and 1:39 to go, will go for it at the Toronto 50. 5-point Argonaut lead, 22-17.
Interesting to see if he tries to set up in the pocket or if he will give himself the option to throw or run, come out sprinting.
Think the Argos will be coming, Neil? That's a 4-man rush. Kimbrough with time, no good. Berry breaks it up. Pass was intended for Reggie Ward.
Kimbrough hoping Ward would get that one step coming inside. It's awfully congested.
We have 1:34 left in the game. Toronto leading by 5. Argonauts took over on downs in their own 50. They've run 2 plays. Warren Hudson ran for 3 yards, and then Billy Jackson made a big play to stop Gil Finnerty for a loss of 3 yards. So the Argos are 3rd and 10 at their 50. 1:07 left. And Ottawa's going to get the football back down by 5 points.
Now, if you're the Riders, as they are, do you go for the block here? They've had 11 men up all night. Or do you try to set up a return for Dossie? Try to jam the Toronto offensive team, the punting unit. Try to throw him off, get a seam, and see if he can break it.
I think I might have called my timeout here. And I'd also go for the block. They have 11 men coming after the ball. Illicik gets it away, and it's a dandy. Dossie retreats to his 5. And brings it back out to the 24-yard line. 37 seconds remaining in the 4th quarter. Toronto leading Ottawa 22-17. And Tony Kimbrough will have to be a magician. Well, pull this one out.
I think it's a situation where it's going to be tough to get behind the secondary as far back as they're going to be, or as the defense they play. So you have to hope for an Alphen or a Williams, Ward, any one of them to catch it in the medium range and then bust a couple of tackles.
37 seconds. They could run off 4 or 5 plays, depending on what they are, whether they get out of bounds with them. how quick Kimbrough can run the hurry-up offense. And Kimbrough's going for Alphin long down the middle. Alphin bumped Brazeley running the pattern and was not able to get downfield. So Kimbrough going for it all. 31 seconds. That used 6. And that's John Ulmer at the Ottawa bench.
Come on now.
Well, it was 21-17, the score that Toronto beat Ottawa by when they played the second game of the season, and it's 22-17 Toronto tonight. 2nd and 10. Kimbrough with time to the sideline, but high, intended for Byron Williams, and it'll be 3rd and 10 Ottawa, and of course they will go for it with 26 seconds remaining.
So once again going with Williams, and it's tough to know how they're going to think for this last play or last effort to get themselves a first down with 26 seconds left, as Bob Obilovich discusses some things with John Kangemi, and Steve Goldman hopes for something big. Hopes for that luck to strike now.
Goldman sent a play in. He knows the chances are extremely slim at this stage. Maybe not even that good. As Kimbrough scrambles around and throws, he had a man open, but overthrew him just a little bit. Reggie Ward, the intended receiver, the pass incomplete, and the Argos take over on downs for the 2nd consecutive time with 17 seconds left on the clock.
Saw Larry Crawford down, looked like he was cramping up. And Kimbrough frustrated, as all the riders are right now, I'm sure. Seeing that opportunity slide away a bit, and it pretty much tells you it's over for one of the coaches. And Bob Obilovich gently places those headphones on the bench.
Obilovich has become very accomplished at that little head shake. Win or lose, we see it, because his team is not functioning the way a team that was 14-4 last year should. And Obilovich is thinking. Tony Kimbrough has opened some eyes tonight with his play in relief of the injured Damon Allen. John Kangemi takes the snap from center Ian Beckstead and kneels with the ball. That runs off 1 second, 16 left. Ottawa does have their timeout, so they'll stop the clock here now. But the Argos should still have enough. Well, they will have enough to run out the clock, because they have 2 downs left and 16 seconds on the clock. So unless they mess up the exchange from Beckstead to Kangemi, they're going to win. And Steve Goldman, Mike Roach, Urban Bowman, assistant coaches with him, will suffer another loss. Goldman, you know, it's interesting. He says, I've seen this before. He was with the Argos when they were 2-14 in 1981. He was an assistant coach. That's Byron Williams of the Ottawa Rough Riders. And that look tells it all from Ottawa's side. So this isn't something new for Goldman to go through a tough losing season.
No, but it's a situation that you have to try to find something good, something that has improved. As Mike Roach said, every game their players, some are getting better. Charles Merritt as an example at linebacker. I think Steve Goldman now knows Tony Kimbrough's abilities, or at least a sign of what he could possibly do down the road, and feeling more confident in that position with him as the backup quarterback, and hoping that Damon Allen isn't seriously hurt.
And Jimmy takes the snap, and the game is over as the Toronto Argonauts bounce back from a loss in BC. Don't play very well on special teams, so Obilovich, if he's true to his word, will have to get some players out of town.
Both showing some frustration, but for different reasons. Bob Obilovich knowing his football club can play an awful lot better. There's not a lot of spring in that step. And Steve Goldman trying to find something good about what has happened tonight, knowing that it's a rebuilding process in education, and you don't turn a franchise around overnight, and it's going to take a season.
And they even have a chance to smile at one another. Obilovich and Goldman, the Argonauts victorious. They're 4-3, and Goldman's Ottawa Rough Riders are now 0-7. But they look better tonight in losing 22-17 to the Toronto. Well, the Ottawa Rough Riders lost their 7th game in a row, but they won the statistical battle except for one category: turnovers. 5 by Ottawa, just 1 by Toronto. But net offense, the Riders 319 with Kimbrough playing half the game, and Toronto just 205 yards in net offense, and that will bother Bob Obilovich to no end. Passing 265, 160, and even a rushing edge to Ottawa 79-66, and who would have thought that with Gil Fenerty playing for the Toronto Argonauts. The win moves the Argos to 4-3 into second spot, 2 behind Hamilton, 2 ahead of Winnipeg. The Tiger Cats 5-1, Ottawa 1-7 as you see, and then in the West it's Edmonton 5-1, Saskatchewan 4-2, Calgary, and then BC at 1-5. Well, Neil Lumsden, they asked Orville Lee last year what he learned about being 2-16, and he said, I learned I don't want to be 2-16 again. So you don't lose a lot in learning, people say, but I think the Ottawa Rough Riders have to be encouraged, even though they lost again tonight.
I think they have to be encouraged. That's a very difficult thing to do, to walk out of here now. They had a chance to win the football game, and they didn't give it away, but it just didn't happen to fall their way. You look at the statistics, the one they did win too is turnovers. They won that one 5-1 by giving them away. That hurt an awful lot. It now falls in the hands of the coaches. They're going to have to go back. They'll watch their film or tape tomorrow, and they'll go through and try to find the spots where they were weak and where they can improve. Really does, as I said, falls on the coaches' shoulders to keep the tempo up. They have to keep practices crisp. They have to keep their attitude solid, and not that, well, okay, you guys, we're going to change a whole bunch of you if you don't start to play football. Injuries have been a problem for them. They haven't got that continuity. So it's really tough on the coaches. This next few weeks are going to be very difficult for the coaching staff of the Riders.
Well, morale becomes a real problem when you keep losing, but the Ottawa Rough Riders have a lot of things to draw from tonight as they look for encouragement and look for light at the end of the tunnel.